Hi everyone, I'm Paula from Earth and I'm really excited to be talking to a real mover and shaker in our local area. Today I'm going to be interviewing Councillor Liz Grey, who is a Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change. Liz has had some wonderful interventions for the environment in the Wirral area, and her plans include planting more trees and wildflowers, which of course we really love at Earth Moves, and the curbing of harmful pesticides, and changes as well to the borough's travel strategy. So hi Liz, it's so great that you can join us. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy. Firstly, I'd like to ask you, what is your greatest achievement that you've been able to do within your current role for environmental improvement in your local area?
That's a difficult question because there's so many different strands to what we're doing and it's constantly evolving. I think it's probably the hidden stuff. So the biggest thing for me is to have a sort of like a risk assessment for environmental impact for all the policies that the council has. So we have to, every policy in every area of the council, before a report's written and it gets passed, it has to say what impact that policy change will have on the environment and on the climate. Would it be positive? Will it have no effect? Will it be a negative impact or a positive impact? And of course, that's a wake-up call before that policy is taken any further. So that's probably a hidden thing that people can't see, but it's probably having quite a considerable impact on how we behave as a council. So that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of. But it's like I say, it's not something that people can see.
What are you working on right now? What projects are you doing currently?
At the moment, well, we've just joined Mersey Forest, which is part of the Northern Forest, and so we're really excited about that because that gives us access to a great partnership across the whole of the north of England, but it also gives us access to more experts. We've already got access to fantastic experts when it comes to trees, but this is even more developed now, and possible funding streams as well. So it's really onward and upward when it comes to our tree planting and our tree forest regeneration plans. It's really exciting stuff, and of course they're potentially able to do some work with us on wildflowers as well.
Oh, great, that's really good. So what does a Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change do?
Well, that's a really good question. And actually, I was Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change. But then we moved, as a council, in September from the Cabinet system into the committee system. So it's not just a whole load of Cabinet members making decisions with all the other councillors scrutinising and questioning that. Although we did informally work together much better than that, but it's now committees. So instead of each cabinet member, you have a committee, and it's got a committee chair who has some of the responsibilities that a cabinet member had, but it's cross-party. So you have representatives from each of the political parties on those committees, and it's supposed to be more sort of collegiate approach to making decisions, and it generally is. It's on the whole, it's working very well. And I'm chair of that committee. So it's kind of been a transition for me from cabinet to committee. But it's in many ways, it's still a similar role.
How important do you think community groups like Earth Moves are important for democracy in the council, for feeding back from the grassroots and from more vulnerable people, shall we say, more disadvantaged people, to have a voice? How much value do you place on that sort of thing?
It's absolutely vital. I mean, what you're doing and what other community groups are doing around the world is absolutely vital, because that's the best way for us to find out, without doing a formal, long drawn out consultation. It's one of the best ways to find out what people at grassroots level are thinking and wanting, and also their responses to what we might be doing, because we might not be doing what people want. So this interaction with community groups, we could do with more of it. I think it's brilliant. What you're doing and what you're offering the council is fantastic. It's really like you're a channel for dialogue, which is really, really important.
Thank you, Liz. That's made me really happy, and you are actively, this red hot moment, involved in that sort of dialogue with me, who represents the other people that are involved. So that's brilliant. Just, I know you're a Labour councillor. I'm wondering, what are Labour's overall plans for the environment, and would you ever go to a coalition with the Green Party in the future, do you think? Is there any plans for that?
At a national level, we have no plans for coalition at the moment. I'm sure politics is constantly evolving. You know the phrase, a week is a long time in politics. So we might look back on this as a progressive alliance in the future and be really surprised. You know, we'd be talking like this. I don't know what the future is going to hold with the climate emergency, the environment emergency. I think things will have to change quite drastically, but there's absolutely no plans at the moment for any kind of formal coalition. However, we work very closely with each of the other parties, particularly the parties that have a primary concern over the environment. Labour led the way in the last general election. Friends of the Earth rated Labour above the Green Party in terms of their green credentials. They looked at our manifestos and Labour came top. And then it was the Green Party, and then it was the Lib Dems, and I'm afraid right down there was the Tory Party for their lack of environmental awareness and pledges. But Labour was leading the way, so we're very, very proud of that. I'm happy to work with anybody who also cares about the environment. If you look at the policies from the 2019 general election that Labour was putting forward, I think their best policies were their environmental policies. They were just the best we've ever had as a party. And a plan for nature, that document that you can just Google quite easily, and the Green Industrial Revolution plans that we had, they were phenomenal. They were very, very good pieces of work.
Never got in, isn't it, on too many levels. The thing is about the Green Party, why I wouldn't join it, is because I care about people as well, and I think that the whole issue of the environment is linked in to how women are treated, for example, how disadvantaged people are treated, and the solutions that we look at in Earth Moves are trying to make things like permaculture and environmentalism out, accessible to people that aren't necessarily white, necessarily middle class, necessarily male, and necessarily abled people, because the people that hang around at Earth Moves tend to have, to be, not everyone, it's a real mixed bag, but there is a lot of people that would be defined as disadvantaged. And I care about people as well as the environment. I'm not a deep ecologist who believes, we all died and everything would be great, because we're here, and, people can create art, people can create beautiful architecture and beautiful gardens and things like that. And we're here for, I believe everyone is here for a reason.
So, I agree. The United Nations also agree that climate justice and social justice are the same thing, really. It's the same forces of sort of greed and materialism that have driven climate change, but also driven social injustice.
And one of my interests, my background, my degree and master's is in psychology. Transpersonal psychology was my master's, and that focuses on spirituality as well. So I think people need to have that feeling of transcendence, and nature can give them that and make life worth living. I also think people have a need for beauty in their lives, and again, being in nature and it's free as well. It's free to come to our site, and it's free to go to the beach and things, but those things are so important for our well-being and our sense of connection to the world.
There's loads of research to back up what you're saying as well. There's absolutely loads of research that spending time in nature, whether it's by the sea, so you sort of blue nature, or whether it's in the countryside in green nature, they're both incredibly important for your emotional well-being, but they're also really important for lots of other things as well, including your physical well-being. So your physical well-being benefits from spending time in nature, and we need at least 5 hours a week, and most people don't get that 5 hours a week spent in nature. And so we are struggling with physical and mental ill health that could be alleviated quite considerably by spending time in nature. It's linked with being more physically active as well. People want to cycle more in areas that are greener. So we have to think really holistically about this. It is very, very important to provide people with access to nature.
Well, that's what we do, but we also have things with kind of we encourage self-reflection as well, and taking responsibility for your own actions and working in teams, having respect. But also we do little art projects as well that are based around nature as well. So collaborative art projects for kind of, you know, personal revelation, personal healing, connecting with nature. We're very pleased that the council is so green, and we're very proud to be involved with the council that has done so much recently for the environment and has so many plans for the future as well. Could you just tell us what the plans are for the future? Like what can we look forward to happening?
Yeah, there's obviously there's a few different, there's loads of different plans. I'll just give you a quick sort of highlight. There's plans to really quite drastically improve our active travel network so that people can walk and cycle. And I just spent this morning at the school streets meeting where we were talking about the closure of school streets that schools are on just for school pickup and drop off times. To enable people to walk, cycle, scoot to school, and just, you know, enjoy that time getting to school safely and not feel that they have to go by car. So this is really important. We're trialing that, and then we're hoping to roll that out across the borough, because we'll trial different ways of doing it, and the ones that work best, that can inform how we roll it out across the borough. But we're also looking at loads of other ways of improving how people move around for those short journeys when we really shouldn't be getting in the car. We should be active. It's good for our physical health, and it's good for our emotional health, but it's also good for the clean air and for the climate emergency. And this is often, you know, the most important part, road safety. We need fewer cars on the road. So that's a big thing that we've been looking at, improving our road safety, improving our our ability to walk and cycle, and reducing our need to get in the car. So that's a big piece of work that's going on, and hopefully it could, in years to come, transform the way we move around the borough. And then we've also planting for pollinators, so we've got lots of ideas about rolling forward roundabouts, grass verges, and many of our parks and open spaces. And private land as well, facilitating the use of private land for planting for pollinators, planting trees, natural regeneration of forests, where you just leave an area to generate naturally. You don't actually plant the trees, but that obviously there's a lot of communications with residents needed for this, because they'll just think we're just abandoning areas. So people need to be informed about what we're doing and why we're doing it. There's also plans to manage our beaches and our SSSIs differently, so our sites of special scientific interest. We've got a lot of designated sites around the world. We're really lucky, so not just on our coast, but inland as well. We've got some really important areas that are, quite limited around the country. We've got important lowland heath areas, and we're looking to improve the designations, because at the moment we're not really designated particularly well around Wirral, so that they're not scoring high when Natural England visit them and see how they're doing. So we've got lots of plans to really inform the public about how we need to look after these areas, and the sort of the treatments that we'll have to engage in to make sure that we get the highest possible ratings for these. But there are quite a few. There's things that I can't necessarily tell you about yet, because it's still in the very, very early stages, but there's some really exciting stuff coming our way.
You are an extremely hard-working woman, because I know you're also a teacher and a mum as well, and I really admire that. And I know that you must have to make sacrifices to do this work, and that's very admirable. But it's so important. In fact, what is more important than the environment? That's where we live, that's where we're placed, and we've got to look after it. And it's great that, the council, and your role of pushing these agendas forward is really great. So I'm really looking forward to having a cup of tea or coffee or herbal tea with you on our beautiful site in Telegraph Lane, and showing you around the work that we've done so far, and hearing any suggestions that you might have too. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're so busy, and that was a really interesting response. So hopefully I'll see you at the site, and we can chat more then.
Really looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye, Liz. Take care. Bye.
Bye.